She was holding her baby, quietly feeding her under a soft blanket, when the flight attendant stopped beside her seat and spoke loudly enough for the entire first-class cabin to hear. "This is first class. You can't do that here." The mother froze. Passengers turned their heads. Some stared. No one spoke up. She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She simply looked down at her baby, gently reached for her phone, and sent a short message. No one knew, not the flight attendant, not the captain, not even the other passengers, that this woman didn't just buy a first-class ticket. She helped build the airline. By the time the plane landed, the people who had humiliated her would be standing in front of her, terrified of what she might say next. Her name was Eliana. She sat quietly in seat 1A, rocking her baby gently in her arms. The hum of the plane wrapped the cabin in a low, comforting sound, and the dim lights offered a sense of calm. She wore a soft gray sweater, comfortable pants, and her curly hair was tied in a loose bun. The small blanket over her chest covered her daughter, Naya, who suckled peacefully in a pastel pink onesie. It was a late evening flight. Most passengers in first class were reading or scrolling on their phones. Eliana didn't expect to be noticed. She certainly didn't expect to be confronted. She simply wanted to feed her child in peace. Then came the voice. "Excuse me, ma'am. That's not appropriate here." The words hit like a slap. Eliana looked up and saw the flight attendant. Her arms crossed, her eyes sharp. The name tag read Shelley. There was no kindness in her face, only judgment. "I'm just feeding my daughter," Eliana said softly. Shelley leaned in. "I can see that, but this is first class. We have other passengers here. It's not the place for that." Across the aisle, a man in a tailored suit looked over. A woman seated near the window averted her eyes. Eliana felt her cheeks burn with quiet humiliation. She tightened the blanket around Naya, trying to remain composed. She was hungry, she whispered. "You need to cover up properly or continue in the lavatory," Shelley said, raising her voice slightly. "Or I'll have to ask you to move to the back of the plane." Naya stirred beneath the blanket. Eliana didn't respond. She didn't argue. She just nodded and reached for her phone with one hand, carefully keeping her daughter comfortable. Her fingers trembled slightly as she sent a message to her husband. "She told me to stop feeding Naya. First class. Flight 341B. No one said a word. No one told Shelley to stop. No one stood up. But Eliana was far from invisible. And Shelley had just made the worst mistake of her career. Eliana placed her phone face down on the tray and looked out the window, trying to calm her breathing. Her heart pounded. Her baby's tiny hand curled around her sweater. In the galley, Shelley returned with a smug expression. She checked drink carts, casually sipping coffee. Another attendant, Liana, glanced up. "Everything okay?" she asked cautiously. Shelley scoffed. "Just a mom getting too comfortable. First class isn't a nursery." Liana hesitated. She was feeding her baby. "I handled it," Shelley said dismissively. "Not personal, just policy." Back in seat 1A, Eliana's phone buzzed. Her husband, Malik, had replied. The message was short, tight. "What seat?" "Who?" She replied quickly. 1A. "Shelley. Told me to stop. Sent me to the bathroom." Another message came back. "Don't move. I'll handle it." Eliana lowered her phone, adjusted Naya gently, covered them both with the flight blanket. She didn't know what Malik would do, but she knew what he was capable of. In the cockpit, the pilot was reviewing systems when the phone rang. A direct call from ground ops. Unusual. He picked up. "Captain Neal here." A serious voice replied, "Captain, this is ground control. We received urgent communication from Mr. Malik Adil. He is listed as co-owner of your airline and reported a misconduct incident involving his wife and flight attendant Shelley. He requests Shelley be brought to the cockpit immediately." The captain glanced at his co-pilot. "Understood. I'll address it." He tapped the intercom. "Lead attendant Shelley, please report to the cockpit." Shelley frowned. The tone wasn't casual. She adjusted her uniform and headed down the aisle. Passengers barely noticed, but Eliana did. In the cockpit, Captain Neal looked serious. Shelley, please close the door. She obeyed. We received a report from Mr. Adil, passenger in 1A. His wife says she was told to stop feeding her child. Is that accurate? Shelley straightened. Yes, Captain. I followed protocol. She was exposed. I thought it might make others uncomfortable. Did she have a blanket? Yes, but still. Did she break any rule? Technically no. Malik's voice came through the speaker. Calm. Ice cold. That is my wife. You embarrassed her because of your assumption, not because of policy. Shelley's face paled. I didn't know. You didn't need to know, Malik replied. You needed to treat her like any first-class passenger. But you made her feel ashamed. That is not policy. That is prejudice. Silence. You will return. Apologize in front of the cabin. If she wants to move, escort her. If not, you will remain silent. Upon landing, you will meet the executive board. Understood? Shelley swallowed. Yes, sir. Fix your mistake, the captain said. Shelley exited the cockpit. Her stride was slow now, her confidence gone. Every step down the aisle felt heavier. The air in the cabin had changed. She stopped beside seat 1A. Eliana didn't look at her. Shelley crouched slightly. Mrs. Adil, she began, clearing her throat. I owe you a sincere apology. I misjudged the situation. I regret my behavior. Eliana turned to her slowly, her gaze sharp but calm. You think it was a misunderstanding? Shelley hesitated. I misjudged you. You judged me out loud, Eliana said softly. You assumed I didn't belong. That wasn't policy. That was your choice. Shelley flushed. You're right. I was wrong. I am sorry. Eliana adjusted the blanket over Naya, then looked up again. Apology accepted. But remember, your tone speaks louder than your words. Shelley nodded. She rose and walked back down the aisle. She felt every eye. Even her colleagues were silent. Back in her seat, Eliana exhaled. Naya was asleep. The storm inside her had quieted, but something had shifted. Not just for her. Malik texted again. Security will meet her. Review in progress. She replied, Don't make it personal. Make it policy. In the galley, Shelley read the incoming disciplinary message. Meeting. Review. Mandatory. In her seat, Eliana remained composed. She didn't demand respect. She embodied it. As the plane landed, an unusual silence filled the cabin. 2 officers boarded. They called Shelley by name. She stood, walked the aisle under watchful eyes. No one applauded. No one jeered. But no one helped her either. She passed Eliana. Their eyes met briefly. Eliana held her baby, unmoved. Silent. Powerful. Later, Malik addressed the board. Shelley sat small in her chair, her pride stripped away. Why her? Malik asked. Shelley whispered. She didn't look like the others. That was the truth. The whole truth. 10 years, Malik said. 10 years of quiet judgment. But today, you picked the wrong woman. The board suspended her pending full review. Eliana, meanwhile, sat in the executive lounge, alone with her baby. No fanfare, just reflection. Malik joined her quietly. She admitted it, he said. Eliana nodded. She didn't know who I was. That's why she thought she could do it. Exactly, Malik said. What if it wasn't you? He pulled out a draft. New policies, passenger rights, mother protections. No more assumptions. Eliana read it. Make the message louder than my silence. The next few weeks reshaped the airline. A new standard, new training, a case study named the first class moment. They didn't put her picture on the wall, but they changed the culture. Other airlines followed. The industry took notice. And Eliana? She stayed quiet until she was invited to speak. I'm not here to shame, she told the new crew. I'm here to ask you to see. And they did. They stood, not for a scandal, for change. Shelley sent one last message. No templit. No perespin. You didn't yell. You didn't shame. You showed me who I had become. I am sorry. Not because I lost my job, but because I finally saw. Eliana replied with one sentence. Change matters most when it comes from the people who once caused harm. She looked down at Naya, asleep in her crib. One day, you'll understand why I didn't let it go. Outside the airline boardroom, a new sign had gone up, the Eliana Standard. She smiled, closed her laptop, and whispered, "Call it what you want. I'll just keep doing the work." And with that, the future took flight, not just for her, but for every quiet voice that had ever been asked to move.